A fitting start, considering it is the first track. Luigi Island. So this being a Division 4 matchup, it will be, we should see some quite high variance, both in just mistakes, but also possibly in shroom strats, as we see there neither player going for the mystery boost. Yoshi getting back on the road earlier than Brad. Brad, weirdly, because he was using his shroom, actually saves time staying out of bounds earlier, or off the track longer, I should say. Yoshi getting caught up in the sand around the first turn, something that's very easy to do. Yoshi going for a 1-1-1 shroom strat. Brad pulling out quite a large lead, but Yoshi does have that shroom still in hand. It is looking like Brad has too big of a lead for that to really make up the time, though. And yeah, Brad should now be taking track number 1. Good start from him. And possibly a PR? I don't know what his actual PR is here. It is an actual PR. So Brad taking the first track, Yoshi's pick. Luigi Raceway not working out for her, but still a long way to go. We'll see what Brad decides to go with next. And he's going for Mario Raceway, very similar to a recent match. All the raceways getting out of the way early. I know that Brad actually has been streaming some Luigi Raceway attempts, so he has actually been going for PR recently. Mario Raceway here, I would be very surprised to see either player go for the mushroom cut, and yeah, they both play it safe. That is a very risky strat for players at this level. Brad with a pretty clean turn and shroom there. Yoshi struggling a little bit. Brad gets caught up. Yoshi deciding not to cut through the grass at the end of the lap. Yeah, we'll see if Yoshi picks Royal Raceway on the next one. Get all the raceways done. Yoshi using her shroom quite late into the grass and the sand. Will lose her time, and then into the grass at the beginning of the lap too. Brad with a pretty big lead now. Brad with a pretty solid run. We'll see what his time ends up being. We don't get 2 for 2 PRs on that one. But he will take track number 2 by a comfortable margin. Yes, that is my Discord. I didn't have streamer mode on. My bad. We will be going to Calamari Desert next. Calamari Desert, another track where we could see some variance in the shroom strat, depending on the player's paces. The trains are on a cycle, and they can be very difficult to avoid on certain paces. Time Trials is 100cc. That is worth noting, actually. yoshiislander, she is pretty new to Time Trials. She's been doing the 150cc all cups mode much more, but decided to join this Time Trials League. But she has been actually improving quite a lot lately. Brad having to wait for the train, didn't quite get his shroom strats right, and now yoshiislander actually has a pretty big advantage because they're tied, both had to wait for the same train, but yoshiislander has both her shrooms still. We'll see if those shrooms are enough to give her this win. Brad does seem to be more comfortable on this track though, so I think she will have to play pretty clean and get that mushroom off nicely. She does look to have a lead. Brad's stream also started a little earlier than Yoshi's. She has a good chance. And she will take her first track. yoshiislander tying her PR, it looks like. Brad taking us to Choco Mountain. We get to see now if either of these players are indeed in love with the Choco. Both electing to use that shroom around the second corner on lap 1. Pretty popular shroom area. We'll see a lot of people in this league have been doing shroom just after the rockfall section. We'll see if either player decides to do that or if they decide to use the more optimal shroom. Looks like they are holding on to them, probably use them around the first corner. Brad getting bad hills, so does Yoshi. I would expect both of them to get bad hills. To be perfectly honest, good hills is something that's not very common for the lower ranked players. Brad pulling out a lead here about halfway through the race. Certainly in this match seems more comfortable. And even though they are both... Oh, Brad getting good hills there. Yoshi struggling on the hills. Would have lost quite a lot of time there. Good hill is just landing on the far side of the hill and not bouncing on them. Brad with quite a big lead. This is 150cc, he'd have to fall off the edge there, but you can't in time trials. And he's going to take a pretty commanding 3-1 lead in this set. Yoshiislander taking us to Toad's Turnpike. Actually quite a smart pick from her. If you look at the matchup between these two players, this is one of the tracks where she is pretty close to Brad. Whoops, that's my mistake. So, all relatively speaking, of course, they are pretty far apart in rank, even though they are in the same division. But Yoshi is much closer on this track than she is on others. Also, it's Toad's Turnpike, very easy. Brad could hit a car. If she stays clean, she could have a very good chance of taking this track. Oh, but Yoshi hits a car instead, getting into that bus. Not over yet, though. There's oh, Yoshi hitting a second one. That is rough. Brad gonna have to have some pretty disastrous car hits at this point. Yeah, Brad is doing some SSMTs on the straightaways, something that is tends to be something a little higher up the ranks than him. But hey, if you can pull them off, certainly go for them. Yeah, Mr. Pitt, most people could probably do a lot more SSMTs, but for SSMTs, it's actually better to space them apart. Actually use the glide instead of jumping into a new one. The SS is for straight stretch, just doing them on a straightaway instead of a turn. It is something that newer players tend not to do, because if you do an SSMT badly or slowly, it actually loses time over just driving straight. So you see a lot of lower ranked players on long straightaways just driving straight. Oh, Brad hitting a truck. Might be a little too late. And yeah, he will take the first set pretty comfortably there. So first set going to Brad. Yoshi able to take track there. You know, not super far apart. Brad certainly does seem more comfortable in the game, but if Yoshi has some smart track picks, she could still stir some things up in this match. And she's taking us to Wario Stadium. A very interesting pick. Again, as you can see, their PR is about a second apart. For lower ranked players, though, I'd say this is quite a high variance track. Lots of walls and hills to get messed up on. Lots of hills that you see inexperienced players actually tumbling on quite a bit, so we could be in for quite a hectic race. Yeah, Brad certainly is driving pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised by a PR here either. Yoshi seeming like she went for the shroom on the back side of the hills there. I was looking at Brad's stream, I couldn't quite see. Seemed like the shroom was lasting a little longer than it usually does. Brad missing an MT down the hill. Well, interesting shroom spot from Brad. I actually didn't notice he hadn't used his shroom in the normal spot. Very unusual shroom spot. Perhaps it's just a place that he feels more comfortable and more consistent pulling off a shroom. Maybe the normal shroom area, just one that he doesn't feel consistent on. Brad's struggling a little bit through this windy section. Again, these walls come up on you pretty fast. Obviously, to go as fast as possible, you want to be getting as close as possible to them. And Brad, oh, if he making an adjustment to the left, he was headed for a tumble there. Oh, and Yoshi actually does tumble on the shroom. That is a danger of using your shroom in the optimal place. Your angle can just be off by a little bit and you get sent right into the wall. So Brad now with a commanding lead. As you see, Brad having a lap a good 3 seconds faster than Yoshi on lap 2. That tumble does cost quite a bit. Because not only do you have the tumble, but it also cuts off the rest of the shroom you would have had. Yes, correct. Brad using those 3 shrooms to good effect. I've already forgotten what his PR was. I think it was in the 350 range, so I don't think he's quite going to get there. But not all that far off. And I think that is a PR for him. Did he just get a dual PR? He might have just got a dual PR. A very solid race from Brad. Yeah, Brad getting the dual PR there, something that certainly not expected. We do somewhat expect some PRs from Division 4, but certainly not a one shroom lap PR. In a shroom spot that isn't optimal as well, in that unusual shroom spot. Sherbertland, Brad taking us here, and for the lower ranked players, this is a very high variance track. Yoshi playing it very safe around the first major crack jump, and taking some evasive action on the penguins. The penguins, especially in this area, Yoshi taking it very safe, but hitting the wall anyways. So much cleaner lap from Brad, and he will have a very big lead after lap 1. Both players taking it. Oh, Yoshi falling into the water. Oh, that is disastrous on this track. As you can see, Lakitu puts her down, and you're stuck in that ice cube for an extra couple seconds. Brad pretty much just has to play it safe to take this track. Playing it safe, going to the outside of the penguin, doing the SSMT in the middle of that little straight section. Didn't notice that he was doing that. That is a bit of a tight one to pull off, actually. Oh, he runs into the wall in the cave, lap 3. I do wonder if he was on PB pace before that, or maybe he could still be on PB pace. I don't know. Ah, no, he misses it. Does get a second best time, though. And Yoshi Islander goes for the swag ending into the water. Beat my time? You mean the one I paused on? I have done a Sherbert land since then, Kyle. We're heading to Bowser's Castle. This has the potential to be an absolutely chaotic race. Even the top players struggle from time to time on this track in a one-try scenario. On this track, normally in time trials, we will use our ghost to distract the thwomps in the second room. Normally those thwomps track you, but if you have a ghost sitting there, they track the ghost instead. But no ghosts allowed in this league, so they do actually have to manipulate the thwomps to leave them alone. Both getting through on lap 1 pretty clean. Brad with a slight lead. Brad having a little trouble with the walls, hitting them a few times through the lap. Yoshi taking a safer line with that shroom. Will lose a decent amount of time doing it that way, though. Shrooms, for whatever reason, actually go faster. Your speed is higher if you're doing a drift while you're shrooming. Not sure why that is, but that is the case. So just shrooming straight like that, it might be safer, but it is a decent amount slower. I won't make mention of a certain something about this track just yet. Oh, Brad hitting lots of walls. luckily having the cleaner run. Oh, and just into a thwomp, but doesn't spin out. Very lucky there. And Yoshi missing the thwomps as well. So yeah, both players not really having any trouble with the thwomps. Brad getting through much cleaner. Did technically hit one, but didn't spin, so I'm not going to count it. And Brad will take Bowser's Castle comfortably. Takes a very demanding, commanding, I should say, lead in this set 3-0. Brad deciding to take us to Koopa Troopa Beach. Koopa Troopa Beach, a track where the lower ranked players I know do struggle a bit with getting into the tunnel near the end of the lap. We'll see if that comes into play. Also, the little crabs, which recently I found out from Kyle are called sidesteppers. They are RNG, so you might see some spin-outs on them as well. Brad coming up to the tunnel first. He just makes it. Yoshi playing it safe, using her shroom to get into the tunnel. Brad came very close to being too low on that tunnel. And nobody picking Rainbow Road so far, so no time for too many fun facts. Not that I really have any prepared. Brad making it into the tunnel again. Oh, yoshiislander hitting the side. Deciding not to go for the backup wall jump, which is not surprising, just going around, but Brad looking very likely to take this second set. Side crawlers. Oh, man. Kyle either giving me wrong information or I'm misremembering the information. Let's go with blaming Kyle. And Brad keeping clean on lap 3, and he will take set number 2. Also get some nice flashing numbers, not quite PR, but close. Alright, somebody Google it. yoshiislander starting us off on set number 3 at Moo Moo Farm. This track actually earned her a track win against Armin from Division 3. So hopefully she can repeat that performance. This track, pretty universally considered the worst in the game. The uneven ground making it very difficult to have clean MTs, and also all the moles are RNG, completely random. For the higher level players, they do tend to play quite risky through the moles, but we should be seeing some pretty safe lines from everybody in the league, pretty much. We'll see where Brad goes here. Yeah, playing it very safe around the outside. Same with Yoshi. Yoshiislander using her shroom earlier. Not sure if you're going safe around the outside when it is optimal to use that shroom. Probably doesn't change too much. Brad with a pretty big lead after lap 2. Both players playing the moles extremely safe, but it just takes one little slip up, one little bit of the uneven ground sending you somewhere you don't want to be, and suddenly you're in a mole. And of course, every time you accidentally go over a molehill, they always seem to be up. They don't have to be up, but they always seem... And as I say it, there goes Brad right into a mole. But it does seem like he did have enough of a buffer, and he will still take the track. Yep, yeah, it was. He was on PR pace. Probably quite good PR pace as well. You see, he loses 2 seconds there. That would have been that would have been a huge PR. We're heading to Royal Raceway now. Brad, initially just typing RR in the chat, thought we might have been going to Rainbow Road, but now we are going to Royal Raceway, finally getting to the last raceway track. Yoshi into the grass a little bit early. Major time save or loss is on this 180. Yoshi getting caught up on the grass, Brad making it through much cleaner, and you can just see how big of a gap that gives him. Oh, but he's into the, both Carters into the grass in that little right-left section. Brad using, both players using their shrooms pretty early, but they do miss the wall, which is the big thing. Neither player getting the bounce on landing. You should never in time trials get a bounce. If you just don't jump off the end of the ramp, you won't bounce, but you do see sometimes people, especially if they've been playing a lot of All Cups lately, where it is generally safer to jump at the end of the ramp. They sometimes forget. Yoshi making it through that 180 much cleaner this time, but Brad also getting through pretty clean. Adding in a few few MTs. Brad electing to do an SSMT on the ramp. Very interesting, the kind of strats and MTs that he goes for. But again, it is kind of a case of whatever you're most comfortable with, whatever you can pull off reliably, is the smart thing to do in this kind of league. Yeah, both players using the shrooms really early on. Usually is better to wait quite a while. You do see newer players using their shrooms pretty early on this track. It's a bit counterintuitive to wait until you're further down the track. Kind of need to go further down than what seems necessary before starting that shroom. Brad, though, comfortably taking the track, and it looks like another PR. Brad driving extremely solidly in this league. Yeah, Brad definitely looking like on all these PRs he could very easily push them down much further. And Yoshi Islander giving us our first Joker of the match, going to BradForNow for a shortcut run. We'll see how these players handle it. I actually don't know if Brad... let me check real quick. Does Brad have shortcut times? Doesn't look like it. He has no shortcut times on the site, so we'll see how Yoshi can get through this. Brad deciding to not do the shortcut. Very interesting. Yoshi Islander heading into the water. She did this last time on her Joker in the last match. I think she was just not too confident in getting herself turned around on the bridge without falling off anyways. Does it again. Yoshi Islander also electing not to use any of her shrooms. And Yoshi Islander now just has to drive across the line. She will take BradForNow Joker, uses all her shrooms at the end. Gets a flat PR, so there is that. Toad in the replay hitting a snowman. The CPUs when they're driving around after a track are absolute garbage. They seem to always hit obstacles, and I'm surprised honestly they don't just fall off the track. And Brad coming home with a non-shortcut time of 1:48.93. So Yoshi taking that track, getting a bit back into the game here, but no more Jokers left. We are going to Banshee Boardwalk. Very risky track to pick. Very easy to fall off, but as you can see by their PRs, Brad does have quite an advantage on this track. I think judging by Brad's Frap Snowland, we're unlikely to see a Joker pick from him. That is assuming he gets another pick. If he wins the next two tracks, he will win the match. Yoshi playing things extremely safe, struggling to get MTs in the bat house. It is pretty tight in there to get your MTs off. Both players electing for the easier shroom strat around the last corner. As expected, the drop shroom after the zigzag is much more difficult. Brad also going for only one MT through the zigzag. Brad also going through the drop shroom on lap 2. Didn't actually see, I was looking at Yoshi. Did he bounce awkwardly on the drop on lap 1, or did he just decide to play it safe at first? See if he does the drop shroom again on lap 3. He does seem to be having a pretty solid race so far. Coming pretty close to falling off the left side just as I said that. And dropping awkwardly, not going to use his shroom. Yeah, Brad with a pretty solid Banshee Boardwalk, honestly. And he will take another very dangerous lead in set 3 here. Just needs one more track win to take the match. No, we don't play all the tracks. It is players alternate picking the track. Best of 7 tracks per set. Best of 5 sets for the match. And yoshiislander with potentially her last pick going to Rainbow Road. Just couldn't get out of here without a Rainbow Road. At least it is on MTSC, so it's closer to 5 minutes than the 6-minute PAL times. But yeah, a very long track. Oh, I missed the button, so now they're way out of way. Okay, there we go. yoshiislander also switching to Yoshi for this final track. Brad going for the MTs up the hill, Yoshi just deciding to go straight on. Again, SSMTs, if you don't do them cleanly, just lose you time, especially if you miss them going up a hill, you're just going to slow right down, so safe strats from yoshiislander. Yeah, earlier in the league, when yoshiislander faced Armin, the last track was Rainbow Road again, and they both decided to pick Wario instead of one of the lightweights. It was very funny. The lightweights are, that being Yoshi, Peach, and Toad, are all identical for time trials, and all of the other characters being much worse, Wario being kind of extra worse. yoshiislander using her shroom up the hill, Brad holding on to his. I wonder if we'll see a PR, flat PR attempt from Brad. Be very interesting if he does a lap 2 flap and then can never beat it, because nobody does lap 2 on Rainbow Road except for crazy people. Not a huge amount separating them at the end of lap 1. A chomp hit could very quickly even this up. Brad just jumping off. yoshiislander going for the tram. Looks like she didn't get the triple tap A, so slowed right down on the hill. Brad bumping into the walls a bit. Does tend to happen on Rainbow Road, even for pretty highly skilled players. There's just such a large amount of track and so many MTs, you're bound to mess up a few of them in a one try. Brad again not using his shroom up that hill. I actually didn't notice where he used his shroom on lap 1. Rainbow Road also being a track famous for when a PR happens, it happens severely. yoshiislander hitting a chomp, and I fear that might have completely sealed her fate. And as I say that, Brad hits a chomp as well. yoshiislander just squeezing by on the left. Brad again not doing the Tran. I'm very surprised by the strats that he does. Yoshi again not getting that triple tap A for the Tran. You do need to triple tap A to accelerate down that hill. If you just hold A, you don't get the acceleration you need, and you get kind of caught in that hill. It slows you right down to a crawl. But yeah, some very interesting strats from Brad as he hits another chomp. There's another thing on Rainbow Road. If you hit one chomp, you're likely to hit more, because now the cycles are off and you don't know where they're going to be. But Brad doing SSMTs, doing some MTs that lower ranked players tend not to do, but then not using optimal shrooms, not doing the Tran on Rainbow Road. Very interesting. If he updates his strats to more optimal, he could very quickly blitz a lot of his timesheet. So certainly a player to watch out for, I'd say. And as we come to the finish, Brad will take Rainbow Road, and with that, he will take the match. Congratulations to Brad. And yeah, without those chomp hits, he would have smashed that PR. And with that, that is the end of the match and the end of One Try League for tonight. I do believe there is another match happening, just not on Speed Gaming, between Waz and KT the Creeper. So you can search those guys out. They do have a match coming, also in Division 4. But as far as us, we will be having more matches very soon on Speed Gaming, so keep an eye out for us. But for tonight, goodbye, and thanks for watching.